It's called NSPM 7, National Security Presidential Memorandum number 7.
Okay.
Which essentially kind of puts out a warning sign to any entity or individual that may have provided funding or other support to what the Trump administration considers to be the radical left. And so the case against the SPLC is perceived among the people that I've spoken to about it as sort of like a test case of NSPM 7. The administration sort of going after a civil society organization. And so we will see how that case will hold up in court. What I think is very interesting about the SPLC case is I was not surprised that the administration would go after the SPLC. Like, the SPLC has been largely maligned by the GOP for years.
Mm-hmm.
What I expected was the administration to go after the SPLC from a tax perspective, maybe audit them or something like that. But instead, what the administration has done is it's leveled criminal charges against the SPLC, which was quite surprising, saying that basically they engaged in wire fraud with the banks, having all these accounts that they were using to pay their secret informants to white nationalist groups, and that the banks weren't aware of what those accounts really were for, and also of defrauding SPLC donors by using donor money that they were saying would help fight extremism, but actually they were saying it was funding white nationalism because some of the informants were highly placed sources within white nationalist groups. It was interesting to read the charges because there is a history actually of the Department of Justice itself paying white nationalist and far-right informers. And we know that in fact, in some cases that has created danger for Americans or the public. And so, you know, it was interesting to see that they were sort of leveling those charges against the SPLC, which itself has been credited with essentially putting Klan groups, skinhead groups out of business. And I think everyone I've spoken to has said that it's almost laughable to accuse the SPLC of trying to keep extremist organizations in business just so they can continue.
It's fascist.
There were
something you should be upset about
under the Biden administration that it was white supremacist groups that were responsible for a disproportionate amount of political violence, which you said is borne out in the data. So these two administrations have seen the threat of rising political violence in the United States and political extremism in the United States through completely different lenses and as having completely different sources. Like, what do you make of that?
Trump
well, I would correct that a bit because, you know, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, a Trump appointee, himself testified multiple times before Congress that the most lethal and persistent threat when it comes to Homeland Security is white supremacists. This was a Trump appointee. It was just not like debated among people who do serious data analysis. And I think that's why this campaign feels just purely political rather than based in any real evidence.
So Patriot Front is clearly a right-wing organization. The Trump administration is convening all these countries and groups to do something about left-wing extremism. But one of the sort of discomforting facts about the news in this moment we live in is that we have these incidents of really high-profile political violence in which the actors
by Trump boutonnieres
actually have kind of incoherent ideological motives, right? Like, I'm thinking of the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, the other guy who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump back
Mormon
in 2024. Like, they're nihilists and their politics are sort of idiosyncratic. So, like, what do we do with all these violent political actors whose politics don't really fit neatly?
Dude, they're not neatly, but it's all right wing.
Yeah.
No, it's all right wing.
So this has been a trend that's growing domestically and internationally, sort of these like non-ideological terrorism.
Or they make a
it's
profile.
Been responsible for everything from school shootings to, as you mentioned, like the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
And I know a lot of people would hear
that guy was a Trumper.
Characterizing that assassination attempt is like, how could that not be ideological? But like his own
guy was a Trumper,
right? I mean, it's that people say like, oh, that's obviously ideological behavior. He's going after the head of state.
Yeah, I mean, it's
setting,
political violence
not even
because
going
it was an
after him,
attack
just
on,
the misser.
political candidate at that time. Like that
The
is
misser
what
was just
qualifies
trying to
as
set him up
political
for
violence. But it didn't seem like they were trying to make a political statement or advocate for some political cause through that attack.
just like
right?
the false flag
Again,
ballroom ad
citing
at
that
the
former
White House
FBI director
Correspondents' Dinner.
Christopher Wray, he called this salad bar extremism, where you had this sort of take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and like somehow the big picture is just
Yeah,
that
but
they're
Putin's
sort of
orchestrating all this stuff.
maladjusted people who want to achieve some sort of fame within a subculture online, typically, that extols those kind of attacks.
And I
And
still
so
think they're Trump Putin-ears,
this
and
is a
y'all are
growing
covering for them.
issue, and it also concerns, in some cases, the grooming of young children online into
Trump
behaviors of
Putin-ears.
self-harm and harm
Red
against
pilling
other
people.
people.
You know how y'all started
It's
talking
actually
about
quite
this?
a high priority, is my understanding, for law enforcement at every level. They're seeing
Oh,
more
please.
and more kids getting
Probably recruiting
ensnared in networks that are non-ideological, misanthropic, and just sort of extolling violence for the sake of violence. And that's the sort of thing that one would expect to see a global convening of law enforcement around,
I
because
bet you
those
if you
are
cut out the
truly
Trump Putin-ear
transnational
element, that'll die
networks,
down too.
and they can only be confronted across borders.
But you can confront them within this
So the
border
Trump
too, because
administration
they're
is
Trump
obviously
Putin-ears.
framing the political left
I can't
as a
see any
growing
terrorists who
threat
aren't Trump
to
Putin-ears.
America. How much does it matter who is in power when the government is deciding which basket of
Supported
beliefs
either by
and
Trump or by
ideologies are seen as especially dangerous?
So if the work is done properly, there should be no discussion of beliefs, right? There should be a focus on identifying criminal activity and prosecuting criminal
But
activity.
certain beliefs, like right-wing
That
beliefs,
is
obviously lead to
something
more
that
terrorism.
would always preface the FBI director's comments before Congress, is that we don't go after people because of what they believe. We go after people because they're engaged in criminal activity. And that really is what I think is so concerning about this administration, is that they have really sort of pivoted away even from the pretense of going primarily after criminal activity. And they are talking up front about ideology as sort of the reason that people might engage in criminal activity. And it's just
thought police,
very troubling when you consider that
speech police,
in America,
Nazi
you
fascists.
can believe anything you want to believe. It's just a question of whether you're going to act on it in a way that is criminal, right?
Supposedly, or used to be. They're trying to change that, so it won't be America anymore.
For NPR, who covers extremism. Thank you, Odette.
Thank you.
Pretty good program, though.
And that's our show.
Not really
coming up on Life Kid.
strong enough condemnation of Trump and Putin.
No matter how intense, no matter
Guarantee
how
it's Trump,
awful
Putin,
it feels in
Netanyahu, and the
this
oil
moment,
companies, the same
it
people who
will
run the
pass.
Trumpstein class,
This
did
episode
all
was
the Epstein
produced by
stuff.
Jess Conn.
The people
It's edited
behind
by
it.
Courtney Stein.
That's who's
Our
behind the
engineer
right-wing
was
red
Ari
pilling as
Hall.
well.
As for me, I'm Gene Debbie.
I'm B.A. Parker.
Be easy, y'all.
Wish with this big of a platform, y'all could
You're
suppose that,
listening
but
to NPR.
maybe one day you'll do a report on the Church of Judas and how the
Support
Church of
comes
Judas
from
replaces
Isla
all
Salon.
patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism.
Denver. Isla Salon offers advanced color, cuts,
Replace all
and hand-tied
patriarchy,
hair
Christianity, war, and
extensions.
Trumpism
More
with the Church of
info
Judas.
at
Check out my book,
ilasalon.com.
Support comes
Little
from
Book
the
of
Denver
Judas by
Center,
Andrew Harris.
presenting The Sound
Thanks.
of Music, featuring songs like Do Re Mi and
That sounds
16
fun.
Going on 17, directed by Jack O'Brien, running July 29th through August 2nd.
Play against Nazis,
Tickets
we
at
need those.
denvercenter.org.
Unless Trump sends ICE in
Next time on the New
to
Yorker Radio
kidnap
Hour, Senate
everybody in there.
candidate Abdul El-Sayed of Michigan. Is he a
Yes.
Democratic Party savior
Yes.
or a spoiler?
This is not just any
Talking
Senate
about
race.
spoiler.
AIPAC and all the powers that be have made this the highest stakes Senate race. When you spend $60 million to beat one person, you just turn that person into David.
Abdul
Thanks, David.
El-Sayed joins me next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour.
That sounds awesome.
Stay with KRCC and CPR News. That's coming up next.
Oh, great. Probably at 7 o'clock.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from the Wallace Foundation, an independent, non